I do want to start just by asking you if you can perhaps share a little bit about how did you came together as a group with Blackout and just this collaboration that has been going so strong since your Blue Note catalog to today, please.
Yeah, Blackout has been together for over 20 years, which is rare in any genre of music. But I think we're bonded together because of our cultural backgrounds.
Okay.
Right? We all come from my mother's a minister, so I grew up in the black church. Terrion has played hip hop, and all the different musicians have different backgrounds, but we love, trust, and respect one another. So the reason that we're bonded is because when we come together, everybody's voice is brought to the forefront. You feel alive. This is not a band where anyone tells the other person what to do. We come together, and whatever happens, we support one another and allow the magic to occur live in front of an audience.
Interesting. That was actually one of the things that I wanted to ask you, because with so many records and live performances and so many different musicians, and each of the records that you have under your catalog is so different from one another that I was curious about, like, what sort of dictates the direction of the music, if it's like written compositions that you or the rest of the group might have, or if it's a specific mood or a theme that you're looking to explore in each album, perhaps.
That's a great question. And I would tell you, in a lot of ways, I don't think it's me who's dictating the direction of the music. I think it's what's happening in the world. It's what's available at that moment. If there's something that's happening and I feel it in my heart that I need to say something about it, I'll pick up the pen and start writing. And the other thing that makes the music happen and determine a direction, it's always going to come down to the members of the ensemble. When you meet someone and for the very first time you play together and there's this magic spark, immediately you're thinking, oh, we should go into the recording studio and document what we are experiencing together to share it with other people. But I'm also okay with, there are periods where you might go 4 years and not feel the need to record, because I'm not interested in doing the same album over and over again. There's lots of music in the world. There are lots of great books in the world. I think what we need are statements and observations about what's happening in our world that are useful to help us be able to see one another. That's when it's time to make an album, when you have something to contribute to that narrative.
Wow, that is so interesting to hear, because sometimes myself, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but we might assume that, people that are musicians that dedicate their life to music, perhaps just have so many ideas that, they need to let out and put music into recordings, and then we don't perhaps take a step back to think that, there are intentions outside of their creativity that could be the actual drivers for the compositions, right?
Sí, la música es solo una herramienta. Lo que es más importante es la mensaje behind the music. That's what matters. So for me, I may have lots of musical ideas, but if it's not going to be telling a pertinent story, I don't need to put that forward. In fact, in a lot of ways, I don't think of myself as a musician. I think of myself as a person who has a talent that manifests itself well in music, but it comes out in other ways as well.
Okay.
I would tell you that what drives me is that I'm dedicated to the proliferation of empathy through the arts. So whether I'm teaching, when I'm teaching the same thing that I'm trying to share from the stage. I'm trying to teach us how to listen to one another, how to quiet the ego, and understand the power of diversity of thoughts, how we can really create things much bigger than any one individual. Whether I'm developing apps, the apps that I'm working on are all about teaching people how to listen. So music is just a part of the journey. It's one of the most beautiful tools because it's a universal language and people can feel it beyond the words. So it's a special vehicle for sharing the power of empathy.
Wow, me encanta ese mensaje, and I think it's very interesting and important for all of us to kind of connect with the fact that music is not just I think that is aesthetic, or I think that is meant to entertain us, although it is in a way. But I do want to talk to you about, specifically following that trend, about the vibraphone, because here in Mexico, of course, we have a special tradition with a familiar instrument, of course, the marimba, which goes back to like 16th to 17th century, really colonial times from Mexico.
All the way back to the balafone and
exactly. And for us, because it's the base of several like folkloric music from Mexico, especially on the south of Mexico. Marimba is something that I think it feels very familiar to us, like to any Mexican, not only people on the south. But I don't think that, I think perhaps it's because it's so familiar, we don't realize like how important like marimba and the vibraphone and the xylophone have been to the development of jazz music, contemporary classical music, and things like that. So I was hoping you could please shed some light into just the vibraphone as a whole and your relationship as a performer with the instrument as well, please.
So, what's interesting is the vibraphone is very, very young. It's just over 100 years old. It was invented in the United States. But my background actually is in classical music early on. And my first mallet instrument was the marimba. Oh, interesting. I remember walking into a middle school in 7th grade or so and seeing a marimba and walking up to it and playing it just right away. I fell in love with that sound. There was something so beautiful about the marimba that felt like I was reconnecting to something bigger than me. The vibraphone I love because it's beautiful, it's elegant, it's graceful. I actually think the vibraphone is a kind instrument. It's a strange thing to say, but it's not an overpowering instrument. It actually is generous. So I like to play the vibraphone when I'm playing melodies. When I start to improvise, I'm so much more connected to the marimba. Okay. Probably 90% of the time when I'm improvising, I improvise on the marimba. I feel like there's something I don't want to compare the two instruments because they work well together, but in terms of my voice, I feel more deeply connected to the marimba. Wow. It's interesting, when I was young, studying classical music, there was actually one of the teachers in the area formed a marimba band, and we played a lot of traditional music from Mexico and from Costa Rica and from Guatemala. So even as a 10-year-old, I was hearing this type of music that is folkloric music in this area and falling in love with it. So I'm really excited to be here. This is actually the first time that I'm playing here in Mexico. So I'm excited. I hope I get the opportunity to spend some time with great marimbas here and learn.
Wow, that is so interesting, and especially do you think like there is for the general public there is a big difference in sort of like the mechanics of playing, for instance, a vibraphone against a marimba? Of course, the materials of each instrument are different, but for yourself, like, do you think you alluded to kind of like a different mood of approaching each one, and while you're playing it, is there something that is very different from one instrument to the other?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it's not so much the technique, it's what the sound inspires in me. Okay. Because the vibraphone is so graceful. It's like waves.
Yeah.
When I play it, I tend to physically play this way, but the marimba has more dance, so I tend to have play a little bit more with my hips. But it's not because I trained for that technique. It's because that's what the instrument is pulling out of me spiritually. So they're very different in terms of tone, but ultimately what matters is the spirit. What is the story you're trying to convey, and are you using this instrument to connect with people in the audience?
And I love that you mentioned about the spiritual aspect to the marimba, because actually for going back to us here in Mexico and to the beginnings of the marimba here, actually it is documented that the first marimbas that were located in Mexico came here from enslaved Africans that were in Mexico at the time, living in indigenous communities in the south of Mexico, that basically taught the indigenous how to build a marimba and play it together, right? So I think just considering the times and just the thought of something coming together as a mean of expression, but also to create community between two groups at risk at the time, I think it's something very powerful. And in our present times, in which it feels like, for instance, expression and communities being jeopardized, how do you think jazz music can help us create a sense of unity and empathy, as you alluded in the beginning, that can sort of like help us, brought us together?
Well, jazz is fascinating because fundamentally, in its DNA, it's the science of empathy.
Yeah.
If you have a bunch of people on stage together who think exactly the same way, you don't have jazz. That's a controlled environment with predictable outcomes. So if you think about the cultural circumstances that gave birth to jazz in the United States, you're looking at an environment where you have enslaved people brought to this country from various countries in Africa. They didn't necessarily speak the same language. They didn't necessarily practice the same religion. So there needed to be a way for people to sing their truth. Because in the United States, during an era like that, if you showed that you could read, you would be killed. If you talked about who you loved, you would be separated. So there's something that we needed a venue to express what was on our hearts, and music was the venue. I think it started in religious gatherings because the enslaved people were allowed to gather to practice religion and have space alone. And what would happen is you would stand up to tell your story. You would testify. This is how I'm feeling. This is what's going on in my life right now. And everyone else would sit around and they would support you telling that story. And then when you were done, you were able to sing your truth. You would sit down and support the next person to get off what was on their heart, what they needed to say. This is like taking solos in jazz, right? A jazz musician stands up. You're not supposed to copy or imitate. If you have 30 minutes a week to sing what's on your heart, you're not going to copy someone else. You're going to express yourself. That's what gave birth to the urgency of jazz. So you have diverse cultures coming together with the need to sing their truth. That's why the music is so significant globally, because all cultures are a part of this incredible platform that was created in the United States.
And I love that you say the fact of solos being an expression, but all the other musicians also, as you say, supporting whatever is this other person is saying, their story, what they are trying to communicate as well, right? And serving as a platform of support around the soloist, right?
That's right. And I even remember being in the church, and one of the most amazing things I remember as a child is someone would stand up to testify, and she would say, my brother was sick last week, but I want to let you know he's all right. And then the the organist would just play a chord out of nowhere in the right moment, in the right key.
Yeah.
And then she would keep telling her story, but she would start turning it into notes. And the music was happening in real time, but it was always there to amplify what was on the hearts of the people in the community. It was never about entertainment.
Yeah.
Like in church, you're not going to sit there and watch someone sing. Like you're a genius, and therefore I should watch this genius. That's not the cultural foundation. In fact, that's one of the beautiful things about jazz is that you realize your success is predicated upon other people's contributions.
Yeah.
You can play all the greatest notes in the world, but if the other people around you aren't engaged, or if the audience doesn't feel connected, you don't get that magic.
Yeah, wow. That is so interesting. And actually, the fact that you allude to the culture and the values of jazz, I have a question in regards of, do you think that, when as an outsider myself, like I would say as an outsider, someone that is not from the United States, that has a love for jazz music, do you think that globally speaking, when we think about jazz, our understanding of jazz is perhaps lacking a little bit that connection and that understanding of the culture, the values, the unity that is around the jazz? And let me just explain a little bit. I think for myself, I came for this music through musical interest, but also for academic interest. As you are a person that is learning to play an instrument, you're going to stumble into this art form at some point, right? But what you're going to find is, of course, the theory, the form, things like that, right? And I found that all of these other things that to me are more important, I find them whenever I go to a live concert or whenever I'm privileged enough to have a conversation with someone, working in jazz. So I would like to get your thoughts on, as I said, if globally speaking, perhaps there is I don't want to say lack because that is not the right word, but maybe not deeper of an understanding of those cultural values as well.
Another great question. What I would say is many times people obsess about the product of jazz.
Yeah.
Meaning like there's this great album and I listened to this album and it was inspiring.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily the magic of jazz. That's a recording of the magic of jazz. The magic of jazz is in the process. It's in real time. So if you're just observing the music and not really allowing yourself to be fully vulnerable, and actually I think even participating directly in the science of improvisation, whether it's with an instrument or not, I don't think you can fully understand it until you take a chance to be free, to be vulnerable and improvise. But in terms of humanity, I can't imagine a circumstance where two people are engaged in the creative process and they're upset with each other. You could be having a horrible argument.
Yeah.
And as soon as you engage in an improvised creative process, there's no space to think about what happened in the past. There's no space to think about what's happening in the future. There is only direct reaction, direct connectivity based on what connects us, right? So I think that's a very powerful lesson. And for me, one of my aspirations is to put music in the hands of as many people as possible, not just elite musicians.
Yeah.
And actually, you mentioned the marimba. One of the most powerful things about the marimba is that a child can walk up to a marimba, pick up a mallet, and hit a note, and it's basically going to be in tune. It's going to sound pretty good. It's a democratizer. Whereas if you walk up to a trumpet, they probably can't get out a sound.
Yeah.
So it's actually an instrument that is perfectly situated to create community, to create a gathering space. Multiple people can play on one instrument together. And I also think it's a great way for people to immediately discover the gifts that live in them. It's not a barrier. It's an amazing instrument.
Wow. Yeah. And you already alluded to sort of like your role as a musician in this regard as well, but can you perhaps expand a little bit into, just yourself being maybe it's not the right word, but an institution for the vibraphone and such a celebrated artist. What is sort of like your goal with your music, and what you think, not speaking for everybody, but just for yourself, you would like to sort of like achieve message-wise with your music, and perhaps like share it with the rest of the audience?
So there are many messages that we need in the world. I don't have all the answers, but I can observe and share from the heart. And for me, music is just a tool. So one of the other things that I do in my career is I do corporate leadership training.
Okay.
And I talk about leadership dynamics, how to build a team, how to build a safe environment so that the people who work for you feel comfortable giving the best of themselves. The amazing thing about music is you can demonstrate that lesson without a single word. People can feel it. So if I come on stage and I control the music and I tell my drummer, Terry, I go, I need you to do this. If I tell the pianist, I need you to do that, the music will sound good, but it'll never sound alive. It'll never sound magical. So that's one leadership style where you're sort of micromanaging, but there's an incredible value in understanding that the role of leadership is actually about taking a step back, being able to hear what's happening around you and figuring out a way to connect those ideas. So I can demonstrate sort of micromanaging through music and the pitfalls of that. And I can also demonstrate the idea of a more empathetic, loving leadership style, and you can hear and feel the benefits of that. So that's just one of the messages that I aspire to share with the world. But fundamentally, I think the first step, it's not the solution to all of our problems, certainly, but the first step towards solving these challenges that we're facing globally is empathy. It's about quieting the ego. It's not about what you think. It's not about what you want. There's no right or wrong. It's simply calm down. Let's observe. Like what's actually happening. What is that person actually saying? Where are they coming from? Then you can form an opinion. But what happens when you lead like that, the other person feels heard. Once someone feels heard, they feel loved, they're willing to listen. When you're both coming at each other full steam, whether it's countries or individuals, it's too difficult. So I hope that we can demonstrate values like that through the beautiful science of music.
That is such a powerful message, and I couldn't agree more, especially with the fact, I love the analogy that you used from the corporate setting as well. I think, you know, certainly everybody deserves a chance to just like show them that they can be creative, that they can open up. I understand that, you know, also working on this background as well myself, not all leadership styles are best suited for everybody, not all situations are best suited for everybody, but I do think that it's important to give a safe space for everyone to kind of like show their vulnerabilities and see what makes most sense for everybody, so we can kind of like understand the good person, the areas of opportunity of everyone, right?
This obsession with being the best.
Exactly.
You're the best computer scientist, therefore I'm going to have you become the next leader. That doesn't, just because you're very good at computer science doesn't mean you understand human nature and how to lead other people. What happens when we have this obsession on individuals, it actually hinders humanity. Because what we can do collectively is so much bigger than what we can do individually. When we start to have that shift in our mindset that the real art form is about elevating as many people as possible, collectively, I think the potential for humanity to survive and grow and thrive is going to be much better than if we're focusing on geniuses and individuals.
such an important, beautiful message. Thank you very much, Mr. Stefon. I do want to move on to discussing a little bit just the fact that you, as you alluded, you are also working on the technology entrepreneurship area as well, with Harmony App and other developments that I know you have going on. So can you share with us a little bit what is Harmony App about and any other projects that you currently have going on? And basically their availability and all of that, please.
Sure. So the app that I have is called Harmony Cloud, and I have no background in computer science at all, but I was teaching for many, many years at NYU and a couple of other great universities in the U.S., and I was teaching people to feel music, not just the theory. Yeah. And I met an engineer who happened to be watching one of my classes, and we started to talk, and he said, I wonder if there's a way we can work together to give you a vehicle to help people feel music. And so the reason I was excited about exploring technology is I had a lot of students who would come to my ear training class, and in the class, they would always say, oh my goodness, I'm getting so much better every week. And then he would say, Professor Harris, how do I practice this? Yeah. Without you? And I said, well, you got to get together in the room and catch up with some friends and work with each other. And I felt that wasn't a good enough answer. And so I wanted to challenge myself to see if I could build a tool that would help people grow their ability to listen. So 10 years I've been working on this. I have a patented algorithm that actually can improvise. Like if I were at the piano in a room with you, I basically downloaded my brain into software and it can improvise at the piano as if I were there with you. So that app, the updated version of it will be out by the end of the summer.
Wow. Yeah, and it needs such an important tool. Like you wouldn't even realize, like for myself, I know that as you mentioned, like ear training is so important, but you cannot trick yourself to doing the ear training without the support of another tool. So I think it's such a big asset. And in terms of assets, like how do you think technology is perhaps in applications can perhaps boost the creativity of jazz musicians, current and future jazz musicians?
So it depends on the intention of the person who creates it, right?
Yeah, right.
Technology can be good. Technology can create challenges depending on how humans decide to use it. Obviously, AI is a very significant part of our world already, and it's growing exponentially. I think that it can be leveraged to challenge us to grow our instincts, to grow our ability to be more perceptive human beings. It can challenge us to become more empathetic human beings. It can also cause wars, right? So for me, I'm embracing AI as a tool that I can use in service of doing the best that I can to empower humanity to grow and to empower empathy in the world.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Stefon. We're almost wrapping up, but at first I would like to ask you if you can perhaps share what's any upcoming projects, musical or non-musical, that you perhaps have right now are currently working on that you can share with us, please?
Sure. So the biggest project is by the end of the summer, my app Harmony Cloud will be out on iOS platforms. Again, 10 years of work, so I'm really excited about that. I have another album called Legacy Dances that'll be out in 2026, and I also just became the executive director of a organization in Newark, New Jersey called Express Newark. So we're a 50,000 square foot art center. We have an art gallery, we have photography studios, 3D printing, music studios, and it's in partnership with Rutgers University. And our goal is to teach people in the community the tools that they need to sing the truth. So they come into our space free of charge. Wow. We're giving them free classes, free lessons, creating performance opportunities for them, but not just high-level musicians. You can walk into our space and know nothing at all, and some of the best professors in the world will be there to be of service. So this is on my heart. It's a dream of mine to contextualize the possibility of art to be of service to humanity.
Yeah, wow, that is so inspiring, Mr. Stefon. We really appreciate you for sharing all of this. It was a pleasure for us to speak.
Pero primero quiero decir que tengo mucho respeto para esta cultura. Es un placer estar aquí y la próxima vez voy a hablar solo en español. porque tengo mucho respeto.
Sí, gracias.
Gracias por su support